8 smartest decisions made by Saw characters. I'm a big fan of Saw. I like the movies. Actually, since I'm for the back, I want to turn this shit up a little bit. I like the movies. These motherfuckers be stupid though, but apparently there's some smart dudes. I don't know. I think y'all like these kind of things, right? Y'all like the Friday the 13th ones, so y'all better like Saw. I don't know what the fuck.
Of horror movies to work, the main characters have to be a little bit on the dim side, to put it nicely.
Yeah.
And in the world of Saw, that's an absolute understatement, as the characters constantly find new idiotic ways to mess up Jigsaw's game. However, every so often some characters do exhibit some moments of genuine wit and quick thinking that might even save their lives. Admittedly, they might go on to die later on, but we can still fondly remember these moments as being some of the smart decisions made within the Saw franchise. I'm Josh from What Culture Horror, and these are the 8 smartest decisions made by Saw characters. Number 8. Eric Matthews escapes his shackles, Saw 3. The moment in the original Saw movie where Lawrence Gordon chops off his foot in order to escape his shackles is, of course, one of the most iconic scenes in horror movie history. But that wasn't actually the best way for him to deal with this rather sticky situation. The best way was in fact demonstrated a couple of movies later by Eric Matthews, who at the end of Saw 2 finds himself shackled up just like Gordon was. Skip ahead to Saw 3 and Matthews is seen trying to set himself free. He kicks at the pipe he's attached to and uses a hacksaw to try and cut through his chains, but to no avail. Coming to the conclusion that he's going to have to hurt himself in order to escape, Matthews initially thinks about pulling a Gordon by chopping off his foot, before realizing that there's actually a smarter way for him to go about things. Grabbing a nearby toilet tank lid, he breaks his foot by smashing into it several times, which makes it flexible enough, for lack of a better term, to pull through the shackles. And sure, chopping your foot off or smashing it to bits are probably on equal levels in terms of pain, but at least here Matthews' method allowed him to keep all of his limbs attached to his body and not risk quickly bleeding out. Number 7. Hoffman tricks Strahm into signing his own death warrant, Saw 5. Peter Strahm is one of the most likable characters in the Saw franchise. I mean, he's played by Luke from Gilmore Girls after all, so that was always going to be a given. And overall, he's quite intelligent as well. But in this particular instance, he got played like an ass.
Y'all hear all that? I hope not.
Is the easy
What
bar.
but
A complete
man,
gym you can use at home.
I need to hit the gym. I just bought.
Anywhere you want to take
Can y'all see? No, y'all can't. Like I got a whole bunch of
After
protein.
figuring out that
I
it's
need to
Mark
get back in the
Hoffman
gym.
who has committed several grisly murders, Strahm decides to bring his reign of terror to an end. Following Hoffman to an underground tunnel network, Strahm eventually finds a room with a large glass coffin in the center, inside of which is a tape recorder. You know where this is going. Upon playing this recorder, Strahm hears a message left for him by Hoffman. If he climbs inside the coffin, he will live, and if he doesn't, he will die. It's a simple little game, but since Strahm obviously knows that Hoffman is a murderer, he isn't just going to climb inside a small glass box for no good reason, and so he doesn't. It seems like a smart horror move, because that coffin is clearly a death trap, right? Well, no. After a brief scuffle, it's Hoffman who ends up inside the coffin, at which point it's revealed that he was actually telling the truth. The coffin was safe all along. This results in Strahm being crushed to death while Hoffman, lying inside the coffin, is lowered out of harm's way. Since Hoffman wanted Strahm dead in this case, you could argue that there was probably an easier way to go about doing this, but hey, it wouldn't be Saw without some theatrics, would it? Number 6. Emily uses her children as a survival tactic, Saw 6. The shotgun carousel in Saw 6 is one of the simpler traps in the series, with the victims not
I'm
having to
sorry, bro.
sacrifice-
Just imagine going out that way. Oh my god, man. I can, bro. Please. Bro, I'm trying to go out in my sleep, man. Just right, like what? Oh.
blood or flesh
Oh,
in order to
no.
survive. Instead, they just sit
What?
there and spin round and round in circles, while their survival
Like a
is
carousel?
determined entirely by one man, William Easton. That's because every so often the carousel will stop, placing one of these 6 victims in front of a loaded shotgun. At this point, Easton can press 2
I haven't
buttons to
seen
make the
this.
shotgun fire upwards, sparing the particular victim's life. On the downside, though, he can only do this twice, meaning that 4 people will eventually die. Upon learning these rules, the victims naturally start
Wait,
bleeding
what? My bad.
backwards, sparing the particular victim's life.
Yes,
Point
sparing.
Easton will stop, placing one of these one man, William Easton. That's because every so often the carousel will stop, placing one of these 6 victims in front of a loaded shotgun. At this point, Easton can press 2 buttons to make the shotgun fire upwards, sparing the particular victim's life. On the downside though, he can only do this twice, meaning that 4 people will eventually die. Upon learning these rules, the victims naturally start pleading with Easton to save them, but rather than pleading via purely selfish means, Emily decides to try a different, smarter tactic instead. In this moment, she reminds Easton of her children. When the shotgun is in front of her, Emily tells Easton that her kids can't grow without her, and this resonates with Easton, who decides to save her. Demonstrating how smart Emily's tactic was, the other victims then immediately start copying her, using non-selfish pleas like "my parents are ill" or "I'm pregnant," even though it's not actually quite clear whether these claims are actually true. While you could say that this was an obvious move to make on Emily's part, she did play the game perfectly regardless, which her survival proves. Number 5. Hoffman's body switcheroo, Saw 3D. In Saw 3D, the game seems to be up for Hoffman. The police have figured out that he's taken over from John Kramer and are desperately trying to hunt him down. In retaliation, though, he sets up a bunch more games and taunts them with videotapes sent directly to the officers. Despite being on the back foot, though, he almost succeeds in outwitting the police force and tying up all of his loose ends. Dropping red herrings in his videos, he's able to send the detectives on a wild goose chase, while he himself swaps out the body of a recent game victim and slips inside the body bag, ready to be taken off. This allows him to be transported exactly where he needs to be covertly, and as a result he's able to execute his revenge plan, going on a brutal killing spree and placing Jill in the same bear trap that she put him in previously. Hoffman unsurprisingly shows body.
What? I haven't seen this.
Saw 6. When Simone and Eddie are locked in a room in Saw 6 and told to cut off chunks of their own flesh, they both go about that gruesome task in 2 completely different ways. And in the end, Simone's method proves to be the much smarter plan. Being a bit of a heavier fella, Eddie starts cutting small pieces of flesh right off his flabby stomach, which isn't very efficient in the grand scheme of things. I mean, not that there's a simple or easy way to mutilate yourself, but if you do look at things rationally here, Eddie's fleshy chunks are pretty small, and they take a lot of time and a lot of pain to actually remove. Simone initially tries a similar method, aiming to slice up small chunks of flesh, in her case her fingers, to keep the scales in her favor. But when she's unable to go through with this, she eventually just says, to hell with it, and decides to lop off a huge amount of flesh in Saw 5. While most traps in the Saw series have some clear way to escape them, I mean, usually a very painful way, but still it's better than nothing, the trap that Peter Strahm finds himself in at the start of Saw 5 is the exact opposite. Left alone in a room with a cube-shaped
I've seen this
around
one,
his
okay, cool.
head, Strahm is forced to watch as his miniature prison slowly fills up with water. He has no phone, no keys, and no weapons of any kind. Put simply, it's a completely dire situation. This feeling of helplessness is amplified when the box is completely filled with water, and Strahm obviously starts to drown. With no way out, it looks like he's done for, but at the very last second, he finds a pen in his pocket and rams it into his throat, giving himself a tube through which he can breathe. It's a moment of pure genius, especially considering how little time Strahm had to work out a plan and how stressful the situation actually was. He is pretty bloody lucky that he had that pen on him though, otherwise he'd be done for. Number 2. Hoffman survives the reverse bear trap, Saw 6. Just like Strahm, Mark Hoffman was placed into a supposedly unwinnable situation at the climax of Saw 6. Only this one was set to have a much more grisly outcome. After being captured by John Kramer's ex-wife Jill, Hoffman is strapped to a chair and has a reverse bear trap attached to his head. While it's normally possible to escape this particular trap, like when Amanda Young used a key in the original film, Hoffman is basically left for dead here, and it's only with some smart out-of-the-box thinking that he's able to escape the trap with his head intact. Well, mostly intact. After using the bear trap itself to smash his hand to pieces, which allows him to slip it out the straps on the chair, Hoffman enters a blind panic, frantically trying to use a screwdriver to set himself free. However, this effort fails miserably. Then, just as it looks like it's game over, Hoffman decides to ram the front part of the trap in between the bars located on the door, preventing it from springing open and tearing his head apart. The vast majority of people would have just died here, but Hoffman, well, he clearly had his Weetabix in the morning. Number 1. Kramer recruits Gordon to help him with his work, Saw 3D. While certain characters have displayed isolated moments of quick wit here, it's hard to deny that the smartest person in the entire Saw franchise is the one who's been outplaying everyone from the very beginning. That, of course, being John Kramer, aka the Jigsaw Killer. Now, he's obviously not the nicest chap in the world, but he has made countless smart decisions over the years, and if we had to single out just one of them, then it's the way he recruited Lawrence Gordon, which is arguably the wisest move he ever made. Gordon was, of course, one of the victims in the original Saw movie, with his desperation causing him to chop off his own
Okay,
foot. After
let's
almost
not.
dying of bloodlust, though, he was found by Kramer, who, instead of killing Gordon off for good or leaving him for dead, patched him up, fitted him with a prosthetic leg, and then set him free. Kramer is essentially manipulating Gordon by doing all of this, though, trying to get him on his side, and in the end he's successful, gaining himself an incredibly useful ally in the process. As Kramer himself puts it, his work in the Saw sequels, quote, would not have been possible without Gordon's help. As a doctor, Gordon's medical expertise proves invaluable in setting up many of the traps we've seen in the series, such as placing a key behind Michael Marks's eye and sewing Art Blank's mouth shut. Furthermore, Gordon is able to avenge Jill's death by killing Mark Hoffman, ensuring that Kramer's
Like, did I not see all these movies? Like, what the fuck?
request is carried out long after his own death at the end of...
I could have swore I saw all of them, and then there's like, it's like I missed half the fucking thing. Like, I just slept through, like, like, what? I don't know. I hope you enjoyed the video. I don't know. I didn't talk too much, because this shit's disgusting.